You just finished a workout and your back is stiff and aching. You are standing in front of your freezer with an ice pack in one hand and a heating pad plugged in on the counter, and you genuinely have no idea which one to use. Most people in this situation guess. They grab whichever one is more convenient or whichever one they used last time, and sometimes it helps, sometimes it does not, and they never quite figure out why. Today I'm going to end that confusion for good. An orthopedic surgeon from Brigham and Women's Hospital and a physical therapist from the Hospital for Special Surgery have both weighed in on this question, and the answer is more specific and more useful than the general advice most people have heard. By the end of this video, you will know exactly when to reach for cold, exactly when to reach for heat, what the research actually says about both, and the one situation where combining them gives you the best outcome of all. Let me start with the most important thing to understand about both therapies, which is that they work in completely opposite ways inside the body. Cold therapy, which is the clinical term cryotherapy, numbs the affected area and decreases the sensation of pain. It reduces swelling and inflammation and cools off nerve inflammation in the tissue. Heat therapy, which is thermotherapy, works in the opposite direction. It increases blood flow to the area, decreases muscle tension, relaxes stiff tissue, and through those mechanisms, decreases the discomfort that comes with certain types of pain. Both are genuinely effective, but because they work in opposite directions, using the wrong one for the wrong situation can actually make things worse instead of better. So let me be very direct about when to use each one. Cold therapy is for acute injuries. That means fresh injuries, injuries that just happened, situations where you feel sharp pain, see swelling, or know that inflammation is actively happening in the tissue right now. Pulling a muscle at the gym, twisting an ankle, pain immediately following surgery, a sudden injury to your shoulder or knee. These are all acute contexts where cold therapy is the right choice. The research is clear on this. A study published in 2025 had 30 healthy women perform an intense lower body workout and then recover using either cold water immersion, hot water immersion, or passive rest. The group that used cold water immersion saw delayed onset muscle soreness decline significantly faster than the other groups. A separate study from the same year had 15 recreational athletes use cryocompression, which combines cold packs and compression sleeves, or passive recovery after high-intensity exercise. Inflammatory markers and subjective muscle soreness were both significantly better in the cryocompression group at 24 and 48 hours after exercise. Cold therapy is most effective during the first 24 to 72 hours after an injury or intense bout of exercise when pain is actively flaring. An ice pack applied to the affected area works well for most situations. Cold water immersion, meaning an ice bath or cold plunge, is particularly useful when you are dealing with more widespread tissue damage, like after running a marathon or completing a very high-volume training day. Now here's where most people make their biggest mistake. They use cold therapy successfully on an acute injury. The swelling goes down, the sharp pain fades, and then they keep using cold out of habit even as the injury transitions into its next phase. That is when cold stops being useful and heat becomes the better tool. Heat therapy is for the chronic phase of injuries and for ongoing conditions involving achiness, tension, and stiffness. Once the acute inflammation has subsided, which typically means once you are past that initial 72-hour window, heat becomes the more effective option for continued recovery and pain management. Conditions where heat is particularly effective include herniated discs, chronic muscle spasms, muscle guarding, low back or neck tightness, arthritis, and general stiffness and reduced range of motion. Heat decreases muscle stiffness, increases flexibility, and specifically improves your range of motion during stretching and exercise. Research published in a 2025 issue of Frontiers in Pain Research had 8 participants with fibromyalgia undergo hot water immersion 3 times a week for about 30 minutes over 4 weeks. The heat therapy produced significant reductions in pain and measurable improvements in physical function. A 2024 review on heat therapy for musculoskeletal pain found that increasing tissue temperature through heat therapy can reduce the incidence of injury, which means heat can also be used as a warm-up tool before exercise to help prepare tissue for the demands you are about to place on it. For heat, you have multiple options. A heating pad applied directly to the affected area is particularly effective for localized pain because it concentrates the thermal effect on one specific spot, allowing for greater reactivity in that tissue. A warm bath, sauna, or steam room works well when you want more widespread thermal benefit across multiple areas of the body. The format matters less than the timing and the context. Now let me address something that comes up constantly when people talk about these therapies, specifically the claims around cold plunges and saunas extending your life, boosting immunity, and significantly enhancing mental clarity. These claims are everywhere right now. And the honest answer from the experts is that the evidence for these specific outcomes is much weaker than the social media conversation suggests. A 2025 review on cold exposure and longevity concluded that cold exposure can reduce inflammation, improve cardiovascular health, and lower oxidative stress, but that more research needs to be done on the long-term effects before stronger conclusions can be drawn. A 2026 review on heat therapy found mixed results when it came to improving blood pressure and vascular function. The orthopedic surgeon behind the 2025 review of both modalities is direct about this. There is not a lot of evidence-based data to support that either therapy will meaningfully extend your life or make you live longer. What this means practically is that you do not need to spend money on an at-home cold plunge or sauna for injury recovery purposes. A standard ice pack and a heating pad can accomplish everything that the expensive equipment can accomplish for acute and chronic pain. If you enjoy cold plunges and saunas and they make you feel better, there is no reason to stop. But if you are buying them purely because of longevity claims, the science does not yet back that up with strong evidence. There is also a safety note worth making. Most people can use both heat and cold therapy without concern. The exception is people with cardiovascular issues, high blood pressure, Raynaud's disease, which is a condition where blood vessels narrow in response to cold temperatures or stress, or those who are pregnant. These individuals should consult a doctor before using cold plunges, hyperbaric chambers, saunas, or steam rooms. At-home options like a hot pad or cold pack carry significantly less risk than full immersion therapies and are generally safe for most people. So here is the clearest possible summary. Sharp pain that just started, swelling, fresh injury, post-workout soreness in the first 24 to 72 hours, use cold. Achy, stiff, chronic pain, tightness that has been there for a while, pain that is no longer in its acute phase, use heat. That framework covers the vast majority of situations most people will encounter. And here's the bonus. You can absolutely combine both in the same situation when it makes sense. Many spas offer contrast therapy, which alternates between cold and heat exposure, and you can do a version of this at home. Say you have a history of lower back pain and you go for a run and your back flares up. In the first few hours while it is acutely painful, use ice. Then 4 hours later, when the sharp pain has faded, but the area feels stiff and tight, switch to heat. You get the anti-inflammatory benefit of cold during the acute phase and the relaxation and circulation benefit of heat as the tissue moves into recovery. That combination, applied in the right sequence, consistently outperforms using either one alone. If this finally cleared up a question you have been guessing your way through for years, hit subscribe and turn on notifications because I cover exactly this kind of practical health information every week based on what doctors and physical therapists actually say, rather than what circulates online as general advice. Share this with someone who has been reaching for the wrong therapy and wondering why it is not working. Now they will know exactly what to do